Hello and welcome everyone. Today I'm drawing Spinel from Steven Universe, the movie. So I've heard of the show Steven Universe, but I was never really all that interested in watching it. Until recently, however, when I discovered the existence of the character of Spinel. I randomly came across a video with Spinel on YouTube, and I don't remember exactly what the video was, but I instantly loved Spinel and knew I had to watch the movie. And thus, here we are. I still haven't watched the show though. I remember one of the reasons I never watched it was that it had a lot of episodes and seasons, and ain't nobody got time for that. Spinel was literally the only reason I watched the movie, but let me know if you think the series is good and if you think it's worth watching, and I might give it a try. So I knew I wanted to draw Spinel, but I didn't totally know how. I first was thinking of an action-y pose, with her noodle arm holding her scythe swung back behind her, kinda like she does in the movie. But this pose would cause there to be some empty space in the picture, so I thought it would be cool to have both versions of her present. And since I kinda wanted to draw both versions of her anyway, I decided to do that. Enter the picture you've been watching me draw. I drew, what should we call her, pre-trauma Spinel? In a cute bouncy pose that contrasts post-trauma Spinel's pose. Also, I tried to make them look like the same person, because they are, and I think it worked. I like the way they turn out. Which is your favorite, in the drawing and character-wise? Personally, as much as I love adorable, sweet Spinel, I think edgy Spinel is my favorite. She's cool, relatable, has character depth, but I love her nonetheless and would totally be friends with either version. You have to pick one version to be your bestie for the rest of eternity. Which one are you picking? One thing you'll notice about this picture is that I'm drawing her in my style. Obviously. I debated on how human I wanted to make her look and decided on making her overall look quite human, but keep with the pink skin, hair, eyes, though I did tone down the pink of her skin by making it lighter and overall less intense. And of course, she has her noodle proportions. Even though she is in my more human style, I wanted to make sure she was still noodly and a little uncanny. Which was very fun to draw, by the way. I imagine she's usually kinda short, but I wanted to exaggerate her proportions in this picture, so I gave them really stretched out legs and torsos, along with their noodle arms, of course. This drawing really allowed me to play around with pushing the pose and that sort of thing, without worrying about it looking disproportionate or unrealistic, since she already is. And I really love post-trauma Spinel's pose, especially. That's actually kinda hard to say. This is totally random, but I love the way her left leg looks. I normally wouldn't have drawn it this way, in fear of it looking unrealistic or just weird, but I like how it shows the motion of the pose. However, something that I don't particularly love is how I drew pre-trauma Spinel's twisty waist. I thought it would be cool to have one of them have like their waist twisting like she does in the movie, because I thought it would help get their bendy nature across and make the pose more interesting. But I'm not sure that I like the way it turns out. Despite drawing her more human and in my style, I love Spinel's original design in the movie. She reminds me of old Mickey Mouse type cartoons and something else that I can't quite place, so let me know what she reminds you of. And I especially love the animation for Spinel. Her movements are so smooth and fluid, it's so satisfying to watch. And it really plays into her character, especially during the scene when she sings Other Friends and she's swinging her scythe around. Because of this, I tried to do little things in my drawing to try and keep that look, like making her eye shines more cartoony. Going off script for a second here, I wrote down more cartoony, and Word doc is like, might I suggest cartoonier? And I'm just over here like, no? Like, is that even a word? Because then, it claims cartoonier isn't a word. But, like, make up your mind, what? Anyway, I made her eyes big and round, as they should be, and I gave pre-trauma Spinel, which I guess is the name we're sticking with, lots of eyelashes since her original design she has them, and they make her look more cute. Whereas post-trauma Spinel just has one eye flick, and no extra eyelashes. However, I do later add the black streaks on her face. Since in the movie she first has lashes and later, after being sad, doesn't, I thought it looked like she had running mascara from crying. So I really tried to lean into this and make the streaks on her face less consistent lines and more like sporadic streaks, like actual running mascara. So I tried to make them look more like tears. For her hair, I gave her a widow's peak to give her that heart-shaped face like she has, which was kind of difficult to be honest. Pre-trauma Spinel also has what seems to be little heart-shaped buns, so I tried to make them look more like realistic buns, like actual hair, but still make them heart-shaped. And I think they turn out really cute. When thinking of how I'd draw her outfit, I knew I wanted it to look more like actual clothing, because in her original design, it almost looks like her clothes are a part of her. At least to me. I also wanted her outfit to fit her respective vibes. So sticking with the color scheme, I gave pre-trauma Spinel a puff-sleeved white shirt with pink shorts, gloves, and little chunky shoes. Though in her original design, her gloves and shoes are more Mickey Mouse vibes, I decided to change them up a little bit by making her gloves a little longer and more princess style, and her shoes are like a Mary Jane style. I also gave her thigh-high socks instead of leggings, because I like them, and because I wanted her to reflect what I gave to post-trauma Spinel. Speaking of which, I gave her long white socks as well, instead of leggings, but I thought she looked more edgy with like tights or fishnets, so I gave her both with like this weird layered socks and tights look, which is kind of weird, but I also kind of like it. I kept her spiky boots, of course, and pink shorts. And I gave her fingerless gloves, making the, what would you call that? The base of the glove, that kind of sticks out, pointy instead of round. And finally, I gave her a leather or faux leather, I guess, I don't know, a leather type of material vest with a little heart-shaped zipper pull. Originally, I was thinking of making her shoulder spikes actual shoulder pads or spikes or something, similar to what she has in the movie, but changed them to be more like ruffles that stick out in a spiky way to give a similar silhouette, but make more sense with the rest of the outfit. In the movie, I noticed that the gym characters tend to have their gems attached to their skin, but Spinel seems to be attached to her shirt. Reference to earlier when I said it almost looks like her clothes are a part of her, this is one of the reasons for my confusion. We clearly see other characters with gems either under their clothes like Steven, or that have like a hole in their clothes where their gem is like Amethyst. So it's interesting that they didn't do something like that for Spinel, and so that's what I did for her. I placed the gem on her chest where I think it would sit comfortably, and I put a diamond cutout on her shirt that fits both versions of the heart, upside down and right side up. And I like this much better than the confusing, is it on her clothes? Is she even wearing clothes? I also just think it looks cool. I especially like the way it looks on post-trauma Spinel's vest. It's very cool and looks like a real piece of clothing. Though I guess we have a new question of how does her clothes stretch with her? But I'll just leave that question with you. Speaking of her gem, it was really fun making her gems look shiny, and I like the way that they turn out. This is kind of an I'm dumb moment, but I didn't know Spinel was a gem. Not in the movie, but in real life. Because I've never heard of the gem Spinel. Like, people talk about diamonds and rubies and whatnot, but this movie was the first time I've ever even heard of Spinel. I kind of just thought it was a random name that they came up with for her, and I thought that was odd since all of the other gyms have real gym names, but I don't know. I guess I just thought they ran out of gyms or something. But obviously it's a gym. Now I know, now you know, now we all know, so we never make such a foolish mistake again. In fact, it's actually a birthstone. Not like a main one, but apparently some months have other possible birthstone options. According to my daily planner at least, it's one of August's birthstones. So shout out to everyone born in August, and a happy birthday, because as of uploading this video, it is currently August. So that is a perfectly unplanned coincidence that I draw a picture of Spinel in her month. It almost makes me think my procrastination is a good thing. So since a lot of the gym characters are birthstones, I'm curious to know, for those of you who have seen the show, and everyone else I guess, who is your favorite character? And are they the same as your birthstone? My birthstone is Amethyst, and I did like the character of Amethyst, but as you can probably guess, Spinel is of course my favorite character, so not my birthstone. And I mean, sure, she is kind of a psychopath, but I love her for it. It's really sad how she still basically thinks like a child, saying things like, "Did you play games without me?" and "I don't want to play anymore." It makes total sense why she'd overreact in the way that she did. She clearly has abandonment issues. Not justifying her trying to kill everyone, but... And I just feel so bad for her. Everybody was so unnecessarily mean to her. Even when she was reset, so technically innocent, everyone still shuns her. And she literally helps fix the other gyms. Can I just rant for a second? Steven was low-key a selfish jerk if I'm being totally honest. I know he saved the universe, but he kinda acts like, well, I did my good deed for the day, and in return, I shall live happily with no issues ever. I know it was for the plot, so he would learn something and Spinel would regain her memories and everything. And he does in fact learn that happily ever after isn't a thing, which is good because that is an extremely unrealistic way to think. But he never really apologized for the way he treated and ignored Spinel. In the end, he's good to her, but there could have been a moment where he basically says that he wasn't being a very good friend to her either. Instead, they kind of made it seem like he was in the right solely because she tried to kill him first, so it's only fair. Don't get me wrong, I still feel bad for Steven. He tries really hard throughout the entire movie to save the planet and get his friends back. And I'm not trying to say he's a bad person or character. I actually liked him. And from what I know about the show, he had a pretty messed up childhood, which is no excuse for bad behavior, but it makes it more understandable. I mean, I was over here defending Spinel like 5 minutes ago, so he's just tired of cleaning up the giant mess his mom left in her wake. Speaking of which, his mom, however, is a piece of garbage. I'm sorry, it had to be said. The fact that they didn't even know who Spinel was proves that Pink Diamond never even thought about her again after leaving. She didn't even see her as a real person. Just a little playmate, a toy that she got bored of. And you can see that that's exactly what happened in the flashbacks by how the look on Pink's face changes. I just don't understand how one can have a friend who loves them so unconditionally and then just throws them in the garbage. And Steven even mentions that Pink had hurt other people too, but she's also portrayed as a person that everyone loved, which leads me to the end of the movie. And I don't like the ending very much. The Diamonds basically want to keep Spinel like a pet, just like Pink did, which in my opinion defeats the moral of the story. She went through all that just to end up back where she started. I think she should have stayed with Steven. It just would have made more sense, and it would have been better for Spinel by allowing her to build a real friendship and could have shown true forgiveness. There are even other side characters, so it's not like she would have had to become one of the main cast or anything, so there are no excuses. But alas, those are just the qualms I had with the movie. What do you think? Do you agree with my critiques? Overall though, I thought the movie was quite enjoyable to watch. I liked how it had a bit more of a serious theme than you'll usually get with movies like this. And I did like most of the characters. The lore, however, is very weird, and it doesn't make much sense. But maybe that's just because I haven't seen the show. Though the movie was pretty self-explanatory. Fusions are particularly confusing. Are they the same person? Are they a new person? Are they their kid? How was Steven able to fuse with his dad? Seems like the show doesn't want you to think about it too hard. Also, this is completely unrelated, but am I the only person who is bothered by the fact that Steven wears flip-flops? Like, who in their right mind is going around fighting aliens or whatever they do? Or do any sort of physical activities like running in flip-flops? You're gonna break a toe, or at the very least lose a shoe. It is extremely impractical, and I don't know about you, but I would not be trusting flip-flops with my life. Anyways, back to the drawing. So I've kind of been talking over the shading because it's pretty much just my standard shading. I used the color of her vest on a layer set to multiply for most of the shading, and there isn't any interesting light or anything like that, other than making her arms look round and proficiently noodly, and her glowing scythe, but I'll talk about that in a little bit, so I don't really have much to say about this part. So I got a story for you. Earlier today, I went into the kitchen, as one does, and as you would expect, there was nothing wrong. I go back in the kitchen no more than 15 minutes later, and the whole room is flooding. No joke, there was water standing about an inch deep in some places. Turns out my dad had the wrong hose for connecting the water to the house to the refrigerator. The hose was not capable of handling the pressure and burst, spraying water everywhere. My mom and I couldn't get the water to stop at the wall, so I had to call my dad, who was at work, to ask how to turn the water off to the house. We had practically every towel we own on the kitchen floor. But it's all good now. We cleaned up the water, replaced the hose with the correct one, and yeah. So that was exciting. How's your day been? To make her scythe look like it does in the movie, and to make it glow, I drew it in with white, not using line art, and blurred the edges a little. Then I added pink with the airbrush behind the white layer, and lowered the opacity. I do the same thing on a layer set above the white layer, but I set this layer to add glow. Then to make it look like it's glowing, I added some pink light glow reflecting onto Spinel. For the background, I first added a shadow on the ground in a more stylized way by making it an ellipse, and placing it under the characters, and I lowered the opacity. But I wasn't sure what to do for the actual background at first, because this drawing was clearly not something that would happen in-universe, as both versions of Spinel are present. So I made it a plain background, but to add interest and make the character stand out more, I thought it would be cool to have a heart behind them, like the gem on her chest. Though I didn't want the heart to just be right side up or upside down, because I didn't want it to specifically represent one of them, I wanted it to be for both. So I decided on a broken heart. First, I made the heart in its entirety, and then made it look broken by using the lasso tool and carving out a crack. Then I backfilled some areas to make it look more 3D. And I really like the way the broken heart frames the illustration. I didn't even realize, but the two versions of her kind of make a heart shape. And the heart defines that, but also shows the disconnect between the two versions by being broken. Or maybe I'm just reading into this too much. I've been staring at this picture for too long. Honestly, I really love the way this drawing turned out. It's not perfect by any means, but I think it does Spinel justice. The main flaw I see in this drawing is the way I drew her hands, especially pre-trauma Spinel's left hand. And as I mentioned earlier, I don't love the way the twist in her waist looks. But overall, I had a lot of fun drawing it, she looks super cute, and I love the slightly off proportions. And I hope you guys like it too. And as always, here it is, the reason we're all here, the moment you've been waiting for, the finished illustration. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe if you want it, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, love you, bye!